Good afternoon, my darlings, how are you? So the last time we had a chat together was just before the Virgin Mary's birthday on the 8th of September. We spoke on the day that we had the news of the Burning Man floods, which was all about the mud. In French, the mud is la gadoue. And this is the creating of the new golem. This is the new beast which is coming up between the merging of red and blue, which is your Russel brand, RB. We go from rock and roll, Romulus and Remus. R is the number 18. 18 represents half of 36. It's an opposition. 180 degrees is always an opposition. And now we have that second R becoming the 13th sign. The 13th sign, which is this gap, which is being put into place. In a way, it's the 13th sign, opposite axis to Ophiuchus. Ophiuchus is in the winter triangle between Scorpio and Sagittarius in the galactic gap. And on the other side, we have Orion, Osiris, the fertility gods, and that is in the summer triangle. So that's why on the 8th of September, we had the rugby match, and the rugby match was between France, summer triangle, northern hemisphere, and the southern hemisphere, New Zealand, Cali. And I had said in my post that France would slaughter the All Blacks because basically we're going to have Pluto coming back from Sagittarius to Capricorn on the 3rd of January. So that is the slaughtering of the black energy. We've got the moon as I speak right now in Capricorn, and tomorrow that moon is going to be conjunct to Saturn, and it will be making, have we still got an opposition of Mercury? Venus will be opposite. Venus is just at the end of Cancer, and that is making an opposition to nearly on regular, so opposite on Formholt. We're going to have Saturn and the moon conjunct. So it's about this red and blue. That's why we had such, for the coronation of the king, we had those airplanes making the red, white and blue going over the Nike, the golden Nike. And then we had in front of the Arc of Triomphe, we had Macaron, which is very much the dog to the king. And we have just had an Operation Osiris Rex to take samples from the asteroid Benus. And that operation is called Osiris Rex. So the one man and his dog, the king and his dog, Mac is a pimp in French, and this has all just happened over this equinox. So it really was huge. We had the black moon, the new moon on the 16th, on the 14th. I went to London on the 14th. We had that comet. So let's go to the 14th. So for the 14th, we had moon right on so on the 14th, we have that new moon just at the end of Leo, between Leo and Virgo, which is all about this whore of Babylon. The sun rules Leo, this energy of the sun. And as I've told you before, in France, they have these famous books of the femme solaire, bringing up this girl with the solar energy. We had Mars. Mars rules Aries. The sun is exalted in Aries, where we have Jupiter, the ruler of the mutable cross, and Mercury, the Dauphin, in this Lion King here, the child, Mercury. So Mercury is what we need between sulfur and salt, which is very much this red pill, blue pill, and this child is being born. So we had this comet, the cometh of the sun. And this is on the 14th. Mars is in Virgo, and this is all about the coming partial, it's going to be a solar eclipse on the 14th. So on the 14th, we've got this great American solar eclipse, which is going to give us this A in the sky. It's going to give us this A as we have this axis, making this double crossed, and X is that 10 and 10 that makes 20, that gives us the harlequin shape between the two X's. So we also have childs. So child is right conjunct to Spica, and this solar eclipse is going to be on the blue star. So we've got Mars, red, the ruler of the solar pillar, approaching this energy of blue. So in the medicine wheel, we've got white and black, feminine axis, always black earth, white water, and the masculine axis is red air and yellow fire. So in a way, we're birthing this new energy of this merging of the red and blue, and bringing us normally that white. White is the purest color. But if you merge red and blue, we're going to get that purple, we're going to get that violet, we're going to get that ultra white violence, this Elizabeth line, this new color. If you look at images of Russel brand, there's always this red and blue in all the concerts and everything. We have that R&B, rhythms and blues. So blue can be very calming, but it's also a color of the blues, of depression. And where I live, in the 32nd apartment, we have the most famous jazz festival, which is called Jazz in Marciac, which is shortened to JIM. And that's because my region is that equinox, spring equinox, 322, 22nd of March. And we hold the blues. So we've got, and you know, this is France. The French won on the Virgin Mary's birthday against New Zealand. And this is celebrating the merging. This is France was once the Virgin land at the beginning of the mutable age. And now down under Australia, New Zealand is that Virgin land. So then on the 16th, there's Russel Brand accused of rape, sexual assault. So this is normally Mars in Virgo, can be very aggressive to that Virgo girl. So they're exposing that energy, but this time the aggression is going on to the man. And this is a very androgynous man, but not in the way that should be Twin Peaks Saturn in Capricorn and Aquarius, Father Air, Mother Earth. This is in that Aphrodite, Hermaphrodite energy. So it's the merging of this Mercury. Mercury rules Virgo, Mercury rules Gemini, and on that date, the 14th, so new moon 14th, new moon on the 14th, we had this energy in Leo. Leo is the teenager. We've got Mercury conjunct to that new moon, bringing in this one child energy, this one sex. So in French, to rape is viol, viol. So viol is violet, violet, ultra-violent, violet. And he was 31 at the time, so 31 is your 13. And we had the king in France. So the king is representing, as we saw in the coronation, they were all wearing white. It was very like the Jean de Barry, the Boaz and Jacqueline pillars. Again, that merging of the red pill, blue pill, those pillars. It was a very lunar event, like that film, Jean de Barry. So the king is representing this lunar energy. We've had Venus retrograded back in, and she's still in Cancer. She's moving forward now. And we had France, which represents very much the Leo energy. So Venus is making her last buckle between Leo, ruled by the sun, and Moon, this Cancer, ruled by the Moon. And we have this meeting of King Charles and Macaron. So again, this is making the five-pointed star. Everything we've seen the Titan sank. The Titanic sank. Sank is 5 in French, C-I-N-Q, sank. We had 5 people drowned in that Solomon vessel. It's a copy of the Solomon vessel, 5 people. And the five-pointed star is what we should find between those 2 pillars. So he is accused by 5 women, 4 of them anonymous. So there's that 5th element again. It's all about finding that 5th element. So 31 years old, it's always the 16-year-old girl. This is that age between the adolescent Leo and the young girl before marriage, goes to 21. It's kind of anything under 25 to the age of marriage is Virgo. But we're making this one sex between those 777 twins, the boys, and this 16-year-old Virgo virgin girl. And that is where Mars was. So we've got Tavistock, Wood, said. So Tavistock, it's the mind control. TW, they're calling that person TW. With the Milky Way, MW is being flipped to MM, 1313. So the Pope went to Marseille. That's Marseille. And the King went to Bordeaux, both on the exact equinox date on the 23rd, on that famous 2-3 that makes 5. And that is showing us the new line, the West Atlantic. Bordeaux, 33 is the spine, 33 front to back makes the 8, the 8-year cycle that we're closing before the Olympics. And this is, and 13 is M. It's the M. We're going from the Milky Way is becoming MM. And the Pope was in Marseille. So they're making a line across France. Is there going to be some kind of splits? But they're showing us that hormonal lies, a horizon, the whore's eyes on, the double breasts becoming one breast to make the triangle at the third eye as we have Saturn at home. We got Saturn at home on the true thalamus. So we've got we've just got so much to cover. In France, there's a big documentary coming out about incest. Incest is a play on the insects, and it's called a noisy silence, un silence bruyant in French. So the silence, the Seigneur des Anneaux, Lord of the Rings, Bordeaux, the border of water, it's the new the Lord of the Rings. Seigneur des Anneaux is sheep, the lamb, the sheep. And, you know, it's very much emerging between the Christianity, solar energy, and Islam, that lunar energy. And, you know, it's a total provocation because it's in Versailles. Vert is the worm, the dune. And you see Venus was on the eye of the Hydra snake. And we have Venus, Mercury, Moon, Sun, the comets, Mars, and the child, the Spica star, which is the length of this Hydra snake. So I spoke to you in videos about the opening of Gainsbourg's house, which is at the address 5 bis Rue de Verneuil in the 7th arrondissement. So Verneuil is the eye of the snake, and Versailles is the wings of the snake. AILLES is the I is pronounced Versailles, but I is also wings, pronounced LL. So we've got the Dub L07 on the 20th. Charlotte Lucy Gainsbourg opens after 32 years. That's my department. That is where we have the labyrinth where I live, which is in a direct line to the North Polaris. And this is all about this North Star flip to Vega, the blue star. And this is all going to be happening on the 14th. We're going to have this eclipse right on that, right on Spica. On Spica. So sun, moon, conjunct new moon, eclipse, Mars, the child, and at that point Venus will be bang on the feet of Jesus on Regulus. So going back to the last post since my last video, this one, which was about that red and blue. So I was very conscious of this RB Russel brand coming in red and blue. So the Feast of Mary La Marianne, the Catholic Church celebrates today the birth of the Blessed Virgin Mary on its traditional fixed date of September the 8th. So the Queen died the year before, 9 months after the December 8th celebration of her Immaculate Conception as the child of Saints Joachim, the Boaz and Jachin pillars, and Anne. According to the Bible, Boaz and Jachin were 2 copper, brass or bronze pillars which stood on the porch of Solomon's temple. the first temple in Jerusalem. They're used as symbols in Freemasonry and sometimes in religious architecture. So all this is in my past newsletters since the last video, so I'm going to add those in the comments and you can read a full rundown of the past two and a half weeks since we last spoke. So in here, let's have a look at the pictures. If they let me. So that was a very aggressive on this day before, the 7th of September, before that match. And this is what these images are about. So the Virgin Mary in red, blue and white. If you observe in all film, there's always, it's called Red Bridge. This thing here, it says for the Queen, Red Bridge. So that was the match, New Zealand, France on the 8th. There are those JNB pillars in red and blue. When that lunar pillar should be white energy. So basically, this is what the Russel brand is about. And I did notice in London just a lot of people talking about it. It certainly had the effect it wanted. So, you know, this is the passage we're going through. The solar, the lunar, the Tesla, the accusations were coming from LA woman, the Uber woman, the material girl being risen. And so this is the Tesla, and we're going to have this eclipse on that blue star, which is the star of harvest. Testa d'Urberville is all about. It's about bringing up that famous film, Lucifer Rising, with Marianne Faithfull. And of course, she was married to Mick Jagger. Mick Jagger was at the Versailles. We had the girl who played in Barbie, Emma McKee, the key, M-A, M-A, not the M and the A. So 13 and 1 makes 14, and she comes in the black dress, all on her own, on the lineup of guests. So this is the creation of this girl. Liberty, égalité, fraternité. There's your 5-pointed star. But they never tell you that the last phrase is death. It's Kali. It's the hidden elements. So it's that red pill, blue pill. So I was very aware, and that is bingo, RB. That's what this green comet was all about. So yeah, as soon as I want to make a video, everything goes. So that's why the match was the northern, southern hemisphere. France, New Zealand represent the two furthest points. And of those triangles, which represent the gap, bringing in this 13th, 14th axis, which should be when we find that middle point. There is no 13th sign. There is just our ability to be centered. So I think going through the pictures is going to be too difficult. So RnB also is BR, British Rail, the railway children. And I'm going to be talking to you about my son's play, The White Factory, that I went to see in London. And it's all connected, the railway children. So these are all the images that I had put up 2 weeks before the Russel brands. So we've got that V for victory as well, that red and white and blue. So the French flag, the English flag, the Union Jack, we're rising Jack, is being born from this red, white and blue. So jumping around here, this is a recent post from 3 days ago when the two sides of the coin, it's the corners we've got in our brain. I think I've got a picture here. So that's the opening of the Rue de Verneuil on the 20th for the equinox. Charlotte Gainsbourg is opening, and there's those gates that you've seen. So here we've got the WWll, got this whale's tail, the upside down sword, the two corners, the two coin of the JMB pillars, which is in our heads. When the two sides of the coin become one, how wow I, the Who 5-0, Charles Camilla CC, and DD Diana Dodi is CDDC descendant. We're at the full equinox. I just saw an image of the daughter of Monica Bellucci, and she's called, her name is CD, or DC, because she married Vincent Carcel, who was the man in the film La Haine, the N, my village, Aignan. It's hate in French, N. So these were the images for Charles with Macaron. We had the planes. There is your contrast. When they come together, they're bringing together the two sides of the brain. We've got the British liberty and the French liberty. So religion, morality, loyalty, obedience to the laws, independence, personal security, justice, inheritance, protection, property, industry, national prosperity and happiness. English, French, atheism, penury, rebellion, treason, anarchy, murder, equality, madness, cruelty, injustice, treachery, ingratitude, idleness, famine, national and private ruin, misery. So these are being born. That is what it's all about on the fall equinox, as we celebrate that merging of the Whore of Babylon, the Virgo. Virgo falls onto the back of Leo. So here we got Mars and Venus. And this is all about Venus, which will be approaching. She's going to move into Leo now. And then I think we'll check Venus. So that was on the 14th. Had this black moon, Mars. It's for the 10th. So on the 9th. Venus is right on that Elizabeth line, right on the eye of the Hydra snake. It's the 14th then for the announcement of Russell Brand. Wait till you see his chart. I've got his chart here, so let's just watch Venus. She enters Virgo, a big thing when she enters into Libra, but she enters Virgo. So she's entering Virgo, Venus. She's going to enter Virgo. Yeah, I think we saw that in the last video on that 11/2. So Venus in detriment, and that is the date that we had the Amy Winehouse. So Villers-Cotterêts, VC, of course. The girl killed by dogs, pregnant girl. Girl killed by dogs. France. See, so it was on the 20th of November, which is 2/11. So you've got the girl and her dog. This is Amy Winehouse. Charles went to visit the wine area, Bordeaux, and we had the Pope on the other side of France. So it's this showing us this alchemical from grapes, wine, to spirit, alcohol, as Uranus is still conjunct to Algol, exactly where Uranus was, between Aries and Taurus in 1939, which is all connected with exactly what was going on in the play that I've just been to see that my son did. So let's come back. So Venus is going to enter on that day, which is 2, which is like the 11111. So let's have a look at Russell Brand's chart. Russell, by the way, Russell, RnB, BR British Rail, R18, B is 2, which makes 20, which is the XX, which is the XX, and this gap, it's the XX. So Russell meaning little red. In Old French, Russell means little red, which inspired its use as a nickname for those blessed with red hair. Brand is the new Fox chart this instant. When RnR rock and roll becomes RnB, R18, B2, but he is B13. So you've got 18 and 13. The wheel, the full wheel is 360. This represents this gap in the galactic gap, bringing up the golem god, fake god of Fukius. Everything I knew I would see, I will cover this in a video, so here we are. He is born at Midnight Express, 00, Aka Omicron, putting MC Orion, and he's born in Grays, so Dorion Gray. Midnight represents Saint Nicolas, Nick. So we've got Ola, the wave, Ole, Ole, Nicola, and we're at the bullseye, obviously. The new galactic line, Nile, Neil, Diamond. He is born with Saturn on Sirius, Gemini, and Mercury ruler is retrograde on the horn of the cow, Taurus, and Saturn rules his chart as he's rising Capricorn, ruled by Saturn. Venus in Cancer, as Venus is in Cancer now, North Node in Scorpio, on 10th house cusp, conjunct Neptune illusion. So he has North-South Node in Scorpio, Taurus, feminine axis, as they prepare to enter Pisces, Virgo. So we're going to have a full moon on the 29th, and we have the entry of the Rahu Ketu lunar nodes. North node goes from Aries into Pisces, and South node goes from Libra into Virgo. So we're coming onto that feminine axis, and we're also that the rulers of that feminine axis are Jupiter and Mercury. So we're coming into their rule, Jupiter and Mercury, as they prepare to enter Pisces, Virgo, and Mars, the ruler of Scorpio, conjunct his natal waning slither black moon before new moon in Taurus. So this is his chart. We're going to see it now. After his birth, obviously. Moon, Mars, and Jupiter conjunct in Pisces in second. So let's go and have a look, just so I make sure I remember everything I was looking at. The day the news came out was the 16th of the 9th. You've got your 69, Cali, and this is 7, 9, 16 makes 7. Again, that brings us to those 2 ovations at Cannes. You had 7 minutes for Killers of the Flower for Jean de Barry, and 9-minute ovation for Killers of the Flower Moon. That's 7, 9, 16, 9, Kali, 69, Mars and Moon sat on his Pluto. So let's have a look. What else do I need to say here? Day of the News transiting North Node on his Chiron. It's about Chiron's last. Mr. Tumnus rises at the lamppost. I fell for Paris Olympics with Lucifer. So that's this new energy of this Mars in Virgo, and then Venus coming into Virgo, for Venus in detriment in Virgo and exalted in Pisces. So 1977 was the year, those two angles, coin corners, Chiron and Russel was born in 1975. So let's have a look. We can actually go here. So I've put the transitions for the 16th. So this is his chart. He's rising Capricorn. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, and he's got Saturn in that energy of the 6th house Virgo on Sirius, right on Sirius. So Saturn, Gemini, the child's 6, that virgin girl, Saturn can be ruthless. And we've got the Moon conjunct Mars and Jupiter. So Jupiter at home and making a square to his Saturn in this 2nd house. So he's got 2nd house opened by Jupiter but also just at the closing of Saturn. Saturn and Jupiter rule this opening to his 2nd house of his values. And we've got this illusionist, also very spiritual energy. So everything that we perceive, the two different ways people are perceiving him, I can't actually even look at his face. And I can't really post pictures of him. It really is this energy of this Antichrist energy, and this merging of the red pill, blue pill. So he's got his Venus in Cancer, where Venus is now. He's got Mercury retrograde right on the horn, the corn of the point, the tip of the corn. And he has his Sun, of course, on the bullseye. This is the bullseye. This is the Nicola bullseye, born at midnight, and his 10th house is opened right with that North Node, which is about to go into Pisces, like Scorpio, that feminine energy. Scorpio should be the true MC. This is again another attack on the Scorpio, killing that life-death portal to make such negative energy towards this Russel brand. So Sun ruled by Venus, and Venus in Cancer, and the Moon is exalted normally in Taurus, this Armistice energy. I noticed in Versailles for their dinner they had a large statue of Armistice, Diana, the moon goddess. She was killed in Paris, and now we have this new bringing up the blue energy. The lunar energy is killed, and we're bringing in this aggressive Virgo, the blue star, as Mars is in Virgo. So he has an opposition. He's got Uranus. He's got Uranus just in Libra, could be retrograding from Virgo. We would have to check that. We had the South Node right on Spica and the North Node right opposite on those the first degrees, the most powerful degrees of this Alpha Omega. They've just moved in. We've got, literally one on each side, and it's on his key, on his Chiron, and he has Chiron exactly. He has Chiron now Chiron now, and he has Chiron where Chiron was when he was discovered in 1977. That is the path of Chiron's last. What is Chiron? He is the more evolved of the centaurs. This is bringing that energy in as this Uranus, this Bacchus, this half man, half horse, Sagittarius in the gap. So the moon for this was on his Pluto conjunct to Mars, making an opposition to his moon in Pisces. So you've got this, really this focus on this Corona, Virgo, virus, Pisces. What's he got retrograde? He's got Mercury retrograde. He's got Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. But you see, he's got his planets very much in this subjective area. He's got all the outer planets above in 8th, 9th, and 10th. But, Pisces in the second house, it's about, these are the earth houses, these are the money houses. This is a professional illusionist with Saturn on Sirius as well, and that's got his Mercury right in this gap between Scorpio, Sagittarius, Gemini, and Taurus. Here, this is the birth, this comet, bringing up this new 13th sign, 13, 14 in this axis here. So that's what your RnB is all about. So the dates of King Charles was really just the equinox dates, the 20th, the 21st, and Bordeaux on the 22nd. And he was heralded Vive la Roi, Vive la Roi. So, this is that Leo, the king, merging of the moon and the sun. So vive la roi, vive la roi, the king is dead, long live the king. So we've got death and life, live, evil. And Versailles is all that film, Jean de Barry, it's the revolution, it's the decapitation, it's the liberty, equality, fraternity, or death. It's the liberty pole. It's the new axis. It's the new spine. It's the death and the birth, the life and death portals, Scorpio, that Hydra snake, that feminine axis we're coming into now as we've got the south and north node now moving into this feminine axis for these coming eclipses. So coming back to these pictures, this is that merging of Mars and Venus, making this new Mercury, this new child, this violet, RnB, red and blue, into this paler pink and blue, which is child colors, giving this energy to the child, this lunar Cancer as the blue boy, the UN, the blue child. So there's your 20, always there's 10 and 10. So RnB is 10, 18 and 2 is 20, 18 and 2 is 20. It's the double X, that was at the coronation. It's a 5-pointed star. You've got to find that fifth element. And of course we're at the 50 years. This is this transmutation period where you find that fine line between flesh and spirit. You find your Hawaii 5-0. There is Ishtar. So all this happened after the new moon on the 14th, which was right between Virgo and Leo. This is that diamond. So this is what we have in France. The new merging Mars equals Venus. Mars, L's, Versailles, L. I is also pronounced L for wings. So remember this, at the opening of when Uranus entered Aries, we had the gilet jaune and we had the 5 one-breasted, which is showing the horizon. These are the liberty, the French liberty women again. So this is very much the Mars in Virgo that we're seeing now. This is the Kohanim. See here, the Kohanim. So you've got Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Sun and Mercury. The Vulcan, when you put them together, you put the 2 hands together and you've got this, got the Kohanim. So this symbol, you've got the 4 elements merging. It's just the Star of David. It's earth, air, fire and water merging, the solar and lunar. It's the star. But this star is 6, not 5. So you can see that the divine present peers through the fingers of the Kohanim during the priestly blessing, in keeping with the verse, "Behold, he is standing behind our wall, looking from the windows, peering between the cracks." That last word, Hasharakim, can also be read as 5 cracks in the wall. That provides us the clue to the common form by which the Kohanim hold out their hands. It's in order to have a total of 5 separations between the fingers, 1 space below and between the thumbs, another 2 spaces between the thumb and second finger of each hand, and another 2 between the 3rd and 4th fingers of each hand. So it's your 5 again, your Hawaii 5-0, your Manda Fatima. So corner, Dorian Gray, it's the 4 corners, the angles. This is the frame. You have been framed. And there's D&D, D-Day 4-4, with that triangle, Vesica Pisces and Altair above the summer triangle. The 2 pillars, the candles, and here she is, the woman in red, coming out of the feminine axis, black and white, and we've got Venus in Virgo. Miranda disappears, Venus in Pisces, and we've got the birth of this new girl in her cape. There's Marianne Faithfull in Lucifer rising, worshipping Osiris, worshipping the bullseye, where RnB Russel Brand has got his son right there, the fertility gods in her cape. And that's the film by Kenneth Anger. Paris, and there is that new 5th element girl between the 2 corners. This is your Lara Croft. Eris, so it's all about Eris as well. We've got Eris here right now. So this is for this full moon coming up. Eris is conjunct to Chiron. And to North Node. You've got Eris right in the middle. She is the liberator. And that is your scales upside down, and Eris is used as in this new police force. So Doctor Who, There we've got the D'Artagnan, the Jack, the Caped Hero, always red, blue and white. And you've got Doctor Who, Eiffel Tower, Mona Lisa showing that last corner, that last coin for the Elizabeth line, hormonal Liza, Journey of Venus, in this passage of Aleph Tav. It's got the Aleph in this great eclipse coming up. So this was about that arrival of Charles on Mercury is Mercredi, the 20th. That's your Mercury. 20th, Jupiter, Jeudi, Jedi. 21st, Man, Friday, Venus is Vendredi, Flytrap. 22, BB, Catch 22, V5, Visit, King Charles III, 777111, Charles de Gaulle, Galles, La Gadou, the Gaulois, the Gal is Wales, the whale's tail. So we've got this next eclipse coming up. This next eclipse, the bullseye is going to be bang, bang on the whale's tail. Bang, bang between this merging of North and South America. That is the new breast of Venus for this, and this is the 14th of October eclipse. So rising La Gadou, the mud, the clay, the golem, rises fury in the French. Hell hath no fury than that of a scorned Virgin Mary, Le Bone. So my son's show was in Mary Le Bone, and the Mac Pimp, Ron Macaroni, had a farm over the Virgo fall equinox harvest to open the October eclipses in Virgo. Notre Dame, Amélie Poulain. So the Poulain is the foal, the fowl. Montmartre is your MM. It's Mart, justice. So for when Venus comes into Libra. Whitewater, Pisces, Black Virgo, Madonna and her Dauphin child Mercury in Leo. Sun in Virgo, Whore of Babylon, London, the Poot is in, hormonal Liza, Ishtar, Venus, dark side of the moon. Venus on the Verneuil of the Hydra snake. Mars red and Comet conjunct on blue star. That's your red and blue makes the ultraviolet viol rape white line. It's all provocation to rise the golem beast of the unconscious collective hive mind. To rise the Lucifer rising, La Marianne faithful, Paris Olympics. Yes, I noticed that in London. Olympia is being completely rebuilt. We fall. In London, the Olympians are wild animals compared to the Titans. The 5 killed in Titan, Solomon Vessel, and 5 women accused RnB, of which I think it's the other way round. There's only 4 anonymous and 1 who was not anonymous came forward. Titanic sank, 5-pointed star. What's that? Titan, 5-pointed star of Venus, last buckling completion before Venus enters Virgo. The gas is born from the Grace, moon goddess, Diana sacrificed in Paris, obviously, Pont d'Alma, where we have the flame, the Olympic flame. So this was when Charles was on his way to Bordeaux. Actually, let's just read the post. The show currently going on is so massive. Charles on the west, 33 Bordeaux, and Pope on the east, 13 Marseille for the fall equinox. Mars in Virgo, conjunct Green Man, Comet, cometh the child is born. Sun in Virgo, it's just enormous, and Venus on the eye of Hydra, the Verneuil, Nile, eye of the worm, as Gansbourg's home is open to the public too. So the golem is born from the clay, 5 Rue de Verneuil. Okay, so I'll get back to this word with yeah, that's right. So there's the golem. And we had, on the 21st, we had the moon right just on Antares, between Sagittarius and Scorpio, Venus, and the links here, there's that Hydra. And here we've got Mars and the Comet, and it's all about coming up now for this eclipse where they're all going to be on the blue star. As I'm passing down, this is about Olympia in London. Drove past this morning. Titanic sank, 5-pointed star. Hawaii 5-0, the Who, 5 people killed in Titan, where Venus was retro. Venus makes 5-pointed star of Ishtar every 8 years. Venus is now moving forward in Cancer from Leo, between Leo, Sol, Cancer, Mon. The main difference between the Titans versus the Olympians was in their sizes. The Titans were gigantic compared to the Olympians. The Olympians were third-generation gods who occupied Mount Olympus, while the Titans were second-generation deities who lived on Mount Otherus. So you've got your RG, Romans, Greeks, NRG. We should find that nucleus midpoint, and it's bringing us down a level again to these Olympians. So this is what they're building, this massive new structure, Olympia, this glass. So they were in the Hall of Mirrors in Versailles, and look at all this glass, this building, this new Olympus in the middle of London as we have the Olympics in Paris. So this is the play, The White Factory, that I went to see. So my son has done all the music, and his wife is costume and set design. So the story, it's about a ghetto. It's a true story of a ghetto in Poland. So let me see if I can just read to you a little bit. In September 1942, the Germans demanded Romovsky's to turn over 20,000. So basically, they put a man as head of the ghetto so that he himself made the orders to send people on the trains. This is the BR, the rail, the railway, the Paddington Bear, the Paddington Station, the Elizabeth Line. So the mastermind behind the extermination of the Jews of Cologne, Willem Copper, escaped justice. The man who turned murder into a mass productive line returned to his home. Yeah, so it's he had to turn over 20,000 unproductive people. So he had to turn first away all the old and elderly, and then they asked for the children. And he managed to negotiate. So it was it was a Jewish man himself put responsible, and his choice, very much like in Sophie's Choice, he had to make a choice. He had to negotiate, and his defense was that if he didn't do it, then it would be taken over. Then everybody would be killed, and that in this way that they would preserve some of the Jewish people not being killed. So the White Factory represents the Cathedral of the Holy Virgin Mary, which was turned into the White Factory, where workers stuffed the fluff from the pillows of the deported into new pillowcases to be sent to German homes. So you had this very much this white and black. This is the ashes of the burned people that was being stuffed into the pillowcases. So this was the young couple with their 2 sons. So you've got the Romulus and Remus, the 2 boys, the 2 twins, the 2 Gemini, Mercury, Sulfur and Salt, the parents, the Trinity. And in the beginning, they don't want to take part at all until everything became so desperate that he becomes a member of the police himself, and the wife refuses to participate. And in the end, his wife and children were sent away, and he escaped and made it back to New York, and where he starts a new family and has a daughter. So that's just shown at the end of the play, but that's showing you from those 2 twins, we have this one child, this one 16-year-old between Virgo and the twin boys, this one child race. So I knew it would have very good 5 stars is what this theatre production is given, set in the Polish ghetto. Superb play, explores the terrible choices made by people under occupation. So what else did I want to say? Which is so in it you have this couple with the grandfather. They live with their grandfather. So Saturn. So in the first evacuation of all the old people, he commits suicide to not be a burden, a problem to his family. So you have Saturn moving out of the scene, and he tells stories to the boys. So he brings up the stories of the golem. So the most famous golem narrative involves Judah Loel, Jacob's Ladder, JL Cut, and Ben Bezalel. So Ben is the name of what's going on right now. We've got, I wanted to talk about the See It, Say It, Sorted. So we've got this Osiris Rex capsule, which has come yesterday or the day before. This capsule, so a successful return of the largest asteroid sample ever to be recovered, marks the culmination of a 7-year journey in which, so that was Russel Brand, was a 7-year period journey in which a robotic spacecraft the size of a transit van was sent to scout out the asteroid Bennu. Okay, we'll come to this in a second. Got back to the Guardian, up the other Guardian here, up the Golem. So Ben Bezal, so here's your GB again, your Boaz Jachin pillars. So the late 16th century rabbi of Prague, also known as the Maral, who reportedly created a golem out of clay from the banks of the Vatil River and brought it to life through rituals and Hebrew incarnations to defend the Prague ghetto from anti-Semitic. So this is the stories that the grandfather was reading to the children, attacks and pogroms. Depending on the version of the legend, the Jews in Prague were to be either expelled or killed under the rule of Rodolph II, the Holy Roman Emperor. The golem was called Joseph and was known as Russel. He was said to be able to make himself invisible and summon spirits from the dead. Rabbi Lowe deactivated the golem on Friday evenings by removing the Shem before the Sabbath Saturday began, so as to let it rest on the Sabbath. One evening, Rabbi Lowe forgot to remove the Shem and feared that the golem would desecrate the Sabbath. A different story tells of a golem that fell in love and when rejected became the violent monster seen in most accounts. So this is the monsters of the id. This is the monsters of our imagination. This is the birth of the unconscious collective, which is this 15-year period of Neptune in Pisces and the head and the lunar nodes moving into this coronavirus Virgo Pisces axis, this eclipse merging the two eclipses to make this A, the double crossed eclipse on the 14th that we're about to have. So the golem can be something that is of the most evil, or it is it is facing your shadow. It's facing, this is the creation of, I don't know if I told you about this book I'm reading called Adam Hope. So Appy, and it's the story of a man that rises from the clay, and it's basically a superhuman, and it's a story based at the beginning, just after World War II in America, and it's how this man is rejected from the village where he is because of his superhuman powers. He can shapeshift, he can change, and this is this line, this delicate line between two worlds that we're coming into now. So the Mishnah uses the term for an uncultivated person. 7 characteristics are in an uncultivated person and 7 in a learned one. So it's always that midpoint between the pH, the HP, the Harry Potter, or you've got that what's it called, that HP brown sauce. So you have to have between the acid and the alkaline, between the harmonic procession is always 14. It's always finding that balance. Is your heart heavier than the feather? It's all about this line. Are you creating a monster? Or can you have that middle point between flesh, uncultivated, and spirit, cultivated? In modern Hebrew, golem is used to mean dumb or helpless. Similarly, it often used today as a metaphor for a mindless lunk or entity that serves a man under controlled conditions, but is hostile to him under other conditions. Golem passed into Yiddish as goylem to mean someone who is lethargic or beneath a stupor. So all those years of Burning Man to have that flood, the clay, and then they still went ahead and had that Burning Man coming up. This is the golem, and he's holding a dog, and we've got, the king, le roi, and the pimp. He's holding his dog. We've got the king and macaron. This is they're bringing in. So these images from the play, The White Factory, you see they show you the red and blue and this grey and black. It's all about these two pillars. They always show you the gap as well. It was a very well done play, and I've never seen, out of the 5 plays that my son's done, this is the only one I've ever seen. So very symbolic again, like Russel Brand. 5 women have come forward, 4 remain anonymous. Okay, so here we have, I swore never to be silent, so I said this documentary's just come out in France called Un silence bruyant. Un silence bruyant, that's bubbling over. Un silence bruyant. It's going to be shown on M6. Emmanuel, like Macron, Emmanuel BR, which is un silence. So right, so this is it. So you've got, it's done by a Russian woman, just like this play, and you've got blue and white, black, this blue star, this Russian woman with this Emmanuelle Berthe. So she played Manon de Source, a very famous film, and it's had massive coverage. So again, it's the Silence of the Lambs, the Islam, Saturn at home on the true lamb, and we're bringing up all this energy right now. These are these women coming in. So Anastasia Mikova, she is the playwright. Gainsbourg was French, Russian, and his wife is English. So Jane Birkin, who died, it's always this red-blue merging and bringing in this Eastern energy, the Eastern line. I swore never to be silent whenever and wherever human beings endure suffering and humiliation. We must always take sides. Neutrality helps the opposer, never the victim. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented. So neutrality is that white line in the middle. You know, this is all just energy, the red and the blue, those two pillars creating this ultra violet blue to birth this blue star. So you can read that. Those are about, we've got Dmitri, the playwright, the Russian, and another one here, the director. And then this is Louis's wife. So Galia's a world famous practicing artist, theatre, set design, film and theatre. She has done incredible works. And then my son Louis. Louis is a French-English musician and composer. After an early career in Paris, composing music for advertising, he then moved to Russia, where he worked in the film industry alongside the theatre. He then started working as a teacher in music and composition at Moscow Music University. So all that ended for the war. I mean, both of them lost everything, their jobs, their home, and they've just built everything back up again. But he has been always used. Highlights from Louis' credits include The Reviser Gogol in Warsaw, so that came out just before the war. Death and the Girl, that's when I started making the videos because I saw how important all this was. That was at the same period in 2018. When Venus was retrograde in Virgo in London at the Tabernacle, and then the Government Inspector in Warsaw, and then there was Tartuffe for the Joker by Molière. That was in Moscow, became an enormous production, and that was the date of the Brexits. So let's look at this full moon coming up. So this full moon, we're going to have the sun in Virgo. Mercury no longer retrograde, moving forward, still playing this role, the ruler of Virgo before he moves fully into Virgo. Let's just check that he's still, let's go back to now. So Mercury 26, 27, 28, 29. Mercury is going to still be exactly where we had the new moon. So the ruler of Virgo, right here, Mars has now moved to Spica. Let's have a look on the other stellarium. On the other stellarium, 16, 17, 18, 19, 21, 2, 3, 4, 5, 26, 27, 28, 29. And that is going to be at 11:57 in France. Okay, doesn't really matter that. So Mercury right here, Venus. Is Venus officially in Leo then? Right, so this is enormous. Venus for this eclipse no, this is not the eclipse, sorry, this is the full moon coming up on the 29th, has just moved into Leo. So that energy, she's finishing her retrograde buckle. When she gets back to Regulus, it's finished, but she's now moved out of all that water lunar energy, and she's come back to the king, to France, really getting ready to bring up this new Marianne, the whore of Babylon. So Mercury, the ruler, is just in between where we had the black moon on the 14th, and Mars is now sitting comfortably on Spica. So here we can see that Mars is conjunct to that Comet. Child is here. Let's go back to Stellarium. So Jupiter, Uranus, everybody is retrograde. Everybody's retrograde. We've got Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, and Chiron. So we've still got this conjunction of Uranus on Algol to Jupiter. Jupiter rules Pisces and Sagittarius, where Pluto is still retrograding, but is still in Sagittarius. So we've just had the finding of, let's see. Okay, just whilst I think of this, don't forget that Moscow, Mo's cow, is the 13th chakra. It's the 13th chakra here. Okay, and the other thing I was just thinking, you know, rock and roll was the 50s. After the war, we had RnR, and now we're opening the preparation of the blues. The blues, we've got blue light everywhere on computers, everything. We're making that feminine blue energy into a masculine energy, aggressive light. This blue light, so light is the same word, heavy and light, heavy matter, light, spirits. So making that spirit, that white light, into this Lucifer energy. Fur is iron. It's iron. So it's in this play, the main character was called Copper. Copper, the policeman, Copper, making the baddie, Copper, that's something I noticed as well, Copper. Okay, back to this. So Russell Brand has got his moon right where we've got this full moon coming up. And, you know, we could have a flip where rain comes back, you know, as proving that the women are lying or something like that. Anything which is playing around with these red and blue energies and creating chaos. So we've got Venus, which will have just moved into Leo, making an opposition to Saturn in Aquarius. Jupiter in Aries, the ruler of where Pluto is and the ruler of where this full lunar eclipse is. So, and Mercury, the ruler of Virgo, and Mercury, the ruler of Gemini. So this is going to be a period of 18 months. Here they are. We've got the tail now on Spica, right conjunct to Mars. So that tail energy, as we've got the tail moving out of Libra into Virgo to open 18 months. The opening the last time we've just had, you know, it was Uranus that was the opening of the yellow coats when he came into Aries here. So this is on Algol, that journey from grapes to alcohol, this journey to transmute as we go from the grapes to the spirits Can you get past that, you know, can you activate your medulla, or will you use those unconscious energies of the medulla and turn into a golem? This is bringing up the beast of the unconscious collective. So conjunction of Eris, Chiron, and as I said here, so the North Node has moved into Pisces, and we're going to have this, you know, the conjunction has begun between Chiron, and Russel Brand has got his Chiron right here where the North Node is now, this key, the M-A key, Emma McKay, the Barbie girl, that Barbie woman that was brought into the Versailles, walking the carpet. We had Charlotte Gainsbourg walking alone, both in black. You had the 3 stages of the black. You had the young girl, Emma, the mother, Charlotte Gainsbourg, and then you had Carole Bouquet, CB, 32, in black and white, as the old woman, as the old elegant, the 3 stages of the triple goddesses, all walked alone on that carpet into Versailles. So Neptune beginning his journey in Pisces for 15 years. As I always say, this was all prepared. This is the time of that whale's tail. Cetus was 56 years in the Victorian era in Cetus. And that's when all mental, that's why this person's called Tavistock, dealing with the RnB, Russel Brand rapes. The person is called Tavistock. The whole preparation of Tavistock has been for mental health. Mental health. Charles comes to France to talk about climate change. The CC, he goes to Bordeaux, 33 CC. This is this celebrating this gap that I show you always. These are the newsletters. So you need to look at these 2 newsletters which cover everything. So the transgender whirlpool, it's all about the children, and it came to pass that the age ran out of its time loop when the powers in charge won't give up their power as a hoarding flock of parasites. The only way they have is to pollute and alter mankind under Altair. That's what you have, Dodie and Diana dancing under Altair to make the rhombus, the harlequin, diamond, the power keepers of the knowing of the edges of the time loops and the ages want to herd you into LA land. So there were 2 women cases in LA, Tesla, LA woman, land of transgenderism. They don't want us to grow up. Barbie. Right now we are seeing the young female Mary Magdalene being turned into the whore of Babylon and the male into a nobody genderless entity. Pedophilia are drawing to be legalized, so they're desensitizing us with this whole incest coming up, this actress claiming her incest, and 5 women covered in this documentary again, talking, and it's always against the men. So they will create the false androgynous mankind, which is what the RnB is, as an without barren genderless entity. When the mature old male or female holds a child in its hand, it works in 2 ways. The grand ones of the child are the ones to be allowed to do it and not a stranger. This is Lars's famous picture. We are all being manipulated away from the real heaven on earth in Aquarius. So all this is happening while Saturn is at home and Capricorn. We've got tomorrow conjunction of Moon and Saturn in Aquarius. Today as I speak, the Moon is in Capricorn. The Libra Lucifer energy, so Venus will enter Libra after her period in Virgo, and we're leading up to this energy. We're leading up. of a false justice are about to be implanted by capturing mankind in this false energy. We must turn away from this to preserve the two sacred genders of feminine and masculine. So that's Charles and Macaron, the red and blue merging as one. And here is your gap between Sagittarius and Taurus, right here. And that we saw in Russell Brand's chart as well. So again, this is showing us the shift of Venus. That's what I was talking about in this last newsletter. It was all about the Moors. We had the Morocco, the five-pointed star, the earthquake, and then we had the floods in Libya again. And this is all with, and this wonderful picture basically explains everything. Can I make it bigger? So again, there's your pink and pale blue. So red and blue becomes this faded pink. There's your Ophiuchus sign. And this is La La Land. This is what it's coming into. Utopia, Narnia, La La, Disneyland. And there is Ophiuchus and Mercury being turned into this one gender through Virgo. The 7-7 WWll 7, the two 7-year-old twin boys, our skull, the two L's. L is the wings, Versailles, WWll 7. And we've got this Tyrian, purplic, Elon Musk grid of a new heaven. So again, this is just the brilliant. So you've got this added 13th sign and the Cairo, the sword in the stone, the Chiron's last, closing the last mutable gap as we're in that gap from Pisces to Aquarius. So yeah, this is what I missed in the last, I did a newsletter about it, showing us the 14. This is in Glastonbury, bringing up this green man. And this is from the Viracocha. This has all been about Venus and Cancer, as Russell Brand has. The Bess, the Golem, the fertility god, the Osiris. Got on the two sides. So the Eiffel Tower sits between the 16th and 17th arrondissement. And in London, we've got the famous song of Gainsbourg, C, Saxon, Sun, SSS is the 19th letter. So 19, 19 and 19 makes 10, 10, 10. Say, say, say. That song with Michael Jackson and Paul McCartney. And the number is, of course, 61016. So we've got the Solomon 101, and we've got 6 and 1 makes 7, and 1 and 6 makes 7, 77. That is what is being said on the London Underground. C is C-A, say, A, C-A, sorted, making the ascendant bad to bring up the descendant, DC, DC, AC, DC, red and blue. And here you've got black, white, and blue. This capsule, very interesting shape. We've got the two triangles. Well, it's not really a triangle, and this line and the yellow and the black and blue on the top. Yellow, blue, so Pluto in mutable fire, Sagittarius, Jupiter the ruler in fire, Aries, Mars on the blue star, and we're coming back to black. Pluto will enter for 20 years in this black. Osiris Rex. Bennu is the ancient Egyptian deity linked with the sun, creation and rebirth. Puzio also noted that Bennu, so we saw the golem, we had the Ben, Bill and Ben, the BB, flower pot men, is the living symbol of Osiris. The 14 pieces of Osiris and Rex aka the E-Man, UL, Mac, and the Charlie Brown Rex. The farmer and his dog. Osiris is the Who-50 god dog of fertility, agriculture, and afterlife. The dead and resurrection. Same character as Bess. Same character as Rumpelstiltskin. Same character. Rumpelstiltskin tries to take the child from the king and the queen. Sulfur, salt, and Mercury. It's about bringing this true energy of Mercury, should be that going from flesh to spirit. So, life and vegetation in ancient Egyptian. So voila, the new 13th, 14th axis of the wheel, the gap is born. So, what a shit show for Osiris slain by Helios, the sun god Pantheon, the shining. Lucifer is born. 101955. So that's again 19, 101, 19. Like in that number, they've got 101 with 16. It's the same as 19. Bennu is a carbonaceous asteroid in the Apollo group discovered by the Linear Project on the 11th of September 1999. It is a potentially hazardous object that is listed on the Century Risk Table and has the highest cumulative rating on the Paramotechnical Impact Hazard Scale. So this is all symbolic of what will play out on Earth. So I was replying to a question as a comment, and I thought I would post what I wrote. At the end of the mutable age, we are at the last axis crossover, and X marks the spot. We pass through the heart of the cross. No one gets to the twin peaks of androgynous neutrality without the alchemical inner journey to see as the observer, or we are forever observed. From subjective to objective, we are herded, so the fifth element is replaced by a 13th, 14th axis. So we've got the 13th sign, but that's opening from Orion, MC Orion, Omicron, between Taurus and Gemini, up to Ophiuchus between Sagittarius and Scorpio. The mutable signs, 369, that's your Tesla. Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius are merged artificially with the fixed and cardinal signs, and the 12th house Pisces becomes the abyss, the hole, the void is made alive. You need the 12th door passage to be above the illusion. Next 15-year Neptune is in Pisces, and many will drown in their own madness. During these gap years, humanity is made sterile, and the children are merged as one sex. It's all part of the journey within an alembic pot. And as the years pass, it's harder to recognize how it's done. Without a basic comprehension of astrology, it is in its purest form. It's impossible to read the seasons. The wheel should contract now. The umbrella closes after 4 ages of mutable duality. So within the wheel's journey, we're now in Pisces closing. So again, that axis, Pisces, Virgo, it's very important to make the fifth, the V for victory, fifth element. 5 times 72 is 360. We go from 4 seasons to 5 seasons instead of 12 times 30 to make 360. As we make this shift, humanity will lose the male and female for a third sex, and many will descend below the belt mentality. This is your golem, into a robotic, animalistic form. Fertility is taken over by the GG green god, and the new axis is added between Gemini, Taurus, and Sagittarius, Scorpio, the Milky Way gap. Okay, so in this last newsletter I did a couple of nights ago, I'm bringing up the Versailles dinner very much like the Teapot constellation. We had the moon in Sagittarius on the Teapot constellation, I only wish I had such eyes, the king remarked in a fretful tone, to be able to see nobody, and at that distance too. Why, it's as much as I can do to see all real people by this light. So everything is in here. That's why you really need, you've got the links to everything. And I talk in a much more coherent fashion because I take that 6 hours it takes me to do this, to put everything into order. So so this is something I'm writing about the energy of, so we've got the LED bulbs replacing the white, the blue light is replacing the white light, and light has several meanings related to illumination, e.g. the light of the sun, switch on the lights or light the candle. However, for our purposes here, when comparing to the word light, L-I-T-E, we mean light in the sense of being non-heavy. For example, we know that a feather is light, so in the white factory, the feathers are replaced by ash, the ashes of the dead bodies, from white feathers to black. For example, we know that a feather is light. We might also talk about something like a beer or mayonnaise being light, meaning it is low in calories or has reduced levels of alcohol, sugar or fat. Lead. Lead is a chemical element with the symbol Pb from the Latin plumbum and atomic number 82. It's a heavy metal that is denser than most common materials. Lead stands for light emitting diode. Lead lighting products produce light up to 90% more efficiently than incandescent light bulbs. So we know about lead. Light is an informal version of light used in more casual and marketing-related contexts. It has become more common in the 21st century as a synonym for non-complex or containing less of something. In theory, you should always use light in formal writing and never use light. However, there is evidence that the word light is becoming more widely used in major publications for political purposes. We never use light to talk about illumination, e.g. the light of the moon or the lights in your house. Nor do we use light when talking about things that are literally less heavy than something. So I thought that was interesting. We've got Elizabeth Warren, the statement. So again, you've got everything in these newsletters, and this, we really are in that gap, that passage of being able to pass between the flesh and the spirit, or at that gap. There they are, Tweedledee and Tweedledum, the Pope in Marseille, the Golem, Bess, Montmartre, Comet, and I showed you those images. I'm going to end now just looking at this full moon. I'll come back to you for the eclipses, but this is so important because we're going to have this solar eclipse coming up right on Spica, which is going to make this merging of the double crossover, and this A, as we go from Alpha Omega into, from Libra, Aries into North Node in Pisces, South Node going into Virgo, which is happening right on this date. They enter. We're going to have a big square from Venus to Uranus and Jupiter. As Venus enters, she will be on Regulus. She will be in Leo, not as we see here, but she will be opposite Saturn. So that is her preparation energy before Venus comes into Virgo, making this powerful woman And we'll see what happens with Russel. Will he be completely, this is really making the split. People really think that they can't see the bigger picture of that red and blue electromagnetic pulse, this white line, Elizabeth line, this Tudor era being born through this collision of values and beliefs, always using us as that conductor energy. And we've got a semi-square between that Uranus and Jupiter and Saturn. We've got most of the inner planets opposing all the outer planets with the moon. And that's about everything covered, I think. So, darlings, I leave you with that. We've also got a finger of God going on here between Uranus and Neptune. Of course, pointing to where we're going to be having this eclipse. So it really is all about this eclipse, and everything is playing out, absolutely perfectly. We will see what happens. Regarding readings, I wrote it in my newsletter, but I have had a lot of readings coming in where people are asking me to do the readings on my own, and people really enjoy it. So don't forget, you have that option too. You don't have to be there. You don't have to be present. It's quite powerful when you're not there. When you are there, we obviously get a lot further because I can, I'm talking to you, I can go a lot further, but without you, there is really that raw essence of looking at you without you being there and really seeing all the, no qualms on talking about what I'm seeing. So that's for you to know. And what else do I need to say? Nothing. I'll be back with a newsletter next week. Please check out the last 2 newsletters. And I'm sending you all my love. Stay very cool. Just be aware of this pulse, red pill, blue pill, which is being activated, and this very aggressive Mars bringing up this aggressive energy. And in the long term, it really is just about this transmutation, this journey of being able to find that fine break-even points, just to be able to not take things too seriously in the subjective, to be aware of the objective, and to have that middle path. That is that the little prince, Le Petit Prince, is the nail clippers. Remember that video, that film from 1969, The Little Pass, that won in Cannes, about the people disappearing in the hotel. Hotel is Pisces, Hotel California. We're going from the rock and roll white period to RnB. We're coming back to the soul, earth, Venus in detriment in black. Okay, my darlings, all my love. Bye for now.